So until we can, and so that's why to the second point here, that is an appropriate discussion, because I think we all have different opinions on what constitutes appropriate online behavior, whether, so until we can kind of figure that out, then it's hard to build rules off of what that is. But and then in reference to what I was saying previously regarding the employees, to that point, because some of us view social media differently than others and may be more caustic or might be complaining or doing other things or talking about employees at the village. And again, since we don't have a clear understanding of what people's tolerance or what our definitions are, that I thought to preserve and protect our village, because we are fiduciaries and custodians, and that we were not going to speak of employees. Even, we could broadly say, they did a great job in the elections, blah, 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 but the world isn't waiting with bated breath on our discussions on social media.
That would be self-policing ourselves, so let me understand you correctly, is self-policing ourselves by adopting a policy that, or communication plan or whatever this is, that would, again, we would all agree, or at least the majority of us would vote for something that says you don't speak about anybody that works for the village. Is that what you're saying? Okay. I definitely, if there was, if I believed that there was a problem with management, or to get cleared by the person that we hired is an awkward thing. So for me, meaning if I thought Rebecca was doing a bad job, which I do not, I think she's doing a fabulous job, but and I wanted to state, here's some policies that I think need adjustment for the future, and I wanted to communicate that to the residents. And if her name was in there because, it was a policy she endorsed or she put forward, I don't know that we want her to have to clear that. It's awkward.
Redacted, don't use her name.
Yeah, no, but even, you're not allowed to use titles either, correct? From my understanding. Anyways, it's really hard to talk about policy decisions when you can't speak about police chief or the I don't know, it's just an awkward thing for an elected official, in my opinion, and I'm just expressing my opinion, trusting me.
I think this is a really good example of just not agreeing. I just can't, I can't see a situation where that use of social media would be necessary to move our organization forward. And so that may be, there's just not be any way to resolve that level. I just don't think we're going to agree. So I think that what's in the policy, and I've said this before in committee, that these are reasonable guidelines. People can decide they're not going to agree with them. There's really nothing we can do about that. There's really nothing we can do about whether we get along or not, whether we appreciate each other or not, whether we, there's a policy isn't going to change any of that. But I do think these are reasonable. I do think we can move forward. And
with the way that it's written now, so I just want to be clear, I'm sorry, I apologize, but you said I think it was rewritten to say the word department heads or managers, correct? Tyler, what is being proposed?
Yes, so you can, right now how it's proposed is department heads would be, include that you can refer to, as long as it's in direct, or as long as it relates to their position and official responsibilities.
Yeah, and I'm supportive of that.
Otherwise, if you use anyone else, you just have to have their permission.
So I was just being clear because you were okay with it, and I think you were interpreting it as what was there before, but I could have misunderstood.
no, either.
Okay, thanks. So you're okay. Okay. Any other comments? I agree with Trustee Amenta. I know I don't want to drag this out, but it has been a topic of concern in the community. It's been a topic of concern from board members. So I really appreciated President Shaw when she came and just said, because now I am in that position of, well, how are you going to enforce this? The thing that I would ask all of us, if this is a unanimous vote or if it's a majority vote, is that when we implement it, that we talk about policy. If someone brings me a complaint about another board member, it's a complaint on, that they weren't speaking about policy issues, they were speaking about personal issues. And to me, there's a big difference when you're a board member. I mean, if every elected official has a right in a democracy to tell their constituents, so the constituents are educated on what their values are, so they know whether to vote for them or not. And so it used to be neighborhood meetings, town halls, it's evolved to emails, now it's evolved to social media. I don't know what's coming in the future. But I would like a common understanding that as long as there's no personal attacks within or any harmful personal things within it, people can disagree on policy, and I would ask that you not bring those to me, like, she doesn't agree with this policy, we don't think it's appropriate that she doesn't agree with this policy. Well, that's what an elected official has a right to do. So as long as we're talking about personal attacks or personal innuendos or, those are completely fine. I just don't want to get overwhelmed with, we don't agree on policy, and so everybody's coming to me to say, they're being rude.
Wait, so you're
So what are you
saying,
talking about?
yeah, you're saying it's okay, I mean, because I think the personal versus policy is a really good distinction. I
Right.
mean, I think it's okay for us to debate here, and to express our views online on policy issues, but then, the personal and policy, so that's a good guideline to go by, but then, a big issue that this board has talked about is who's civil and who's not civil.
Right,
And,
I'm trying
and
to-
civility is something that comes up as a criticism of our board. So
Understand.
is that personal or is that policy? I don't know,
No, I understand, and I'm just trying, and again, I'm just asking that people just remember that there is a distinction between personal and policy debates, and we're gonna have different opinions, as Trustee McKay very eloquently just said, that, we're just not gonna agree at all times on, but if we just don't agree on policy, I'm good with that. I just don't wanna be inundated with, she spoke about a policy and she's not for it, and, now we want something done. Trustee Buckers?
So yeah, I'll go back to our ability to agree on what is personal versus, in this case, policy, which I've seen skewed many times, not just within our own board. So I agree, but if you're talking about people complaining about board members,
They do it all the time.
no, I mean, I don't know if that's what you were referencing just now. If that's the case, I guess what I would say is, the law, but you can just say this, I think your job won't be that difficult, other than maybe, I don't know how many people are gonna reach out to you more than they reach out to the rest of us about the rest of the board members.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It's just
but
designated.
again, I really think we should strike, we don't need to speak about the village employees as board members. I don't think it's appropriate, that's my opinion, maybe you guys don't hold it, but I would ask that we could say, let's have a civil discussion and maybe an understanding that we're not gonna, because we all have different opinions and, different stages of things going on. That's not really our duty, nor is it our responsibility. And if someone asks any of us individually, sure, of course we can give our opinion, but we're not Congress people here. We're basically volunteer trustees. And so we don't have staff to answer all of our communications and make sure that our social media is up to this and that. So I would say, I think that we should even go one step further and even talk about our partner situations. And we have the bid and the school district and others, And as trustees here, if we want to set the gold standard and a high standard of conduct, which I've heard the code of conduct thrown around so many times in the last year, then maybe we should lead by example. Maybe we should show that we're going to reach out to our community partners and other stakeholders in a collaborative way instead of combative. And I see far too many examples. I'm not going to name any names, and maybe that's innuendo and shame on me, but from some of us sitting here.
And I do think that's what's the problem. Wait for 1 second. I would like to address that, and then I will call upon you, Trustee Menta. I think that's the heart of the problem is the perception that one person may have about something versus the perception of what the writer or the speaker had about that. So I don't think we're ever going to solve that. I think that's why we didn't do the retreat. It's very difficult. We need a lot of conversations around that and to build team, before we get there. And I thank Rebecca for recognizing that as well. holding off until now to have this discussion. The thing about the employees came up because of me. And it was, well, I have done in the past, said, well, the police, I had a discussion with the police chief and it was very positive. We came to the conclusion that for racial equity, these signs were getting taken down. And I remember talking about that in public and also writing it in a post. And so when I asked the first meeting, we were talking about this, is it the name? Is it Chief Nimmer that we can't say, or is it the title as well? And it's the title as well, so it makes it very difficult to say even positive feedback to the residents. In that situation, it was positive, so I would be comfortable with saying any negative, saying no negative about employees, but if you want to say a positive outcome from a meeting that's going to impact the residents, I think you should be able to do that. So I don't know if there's a way to distinguish, Tyler, that to help in the situation, but at least for management, because when you meet with the fire chief and he has a great budget and he did a great, we want to praise them. We're elected.
Tyler could do that though for us.
But we also should be able to
No, we
do
can
that.
share it.
Because I heard that appreciation. No, I'm just saying that appreciation coming from, is a good thing. I do believe that it helps.
Do we need to take a vote on that then?
I don't know. I don't know the process here. I'm
Where
just
are we going
talking.
here?
Well, I'm asking for a motion to adopt the policy. I would encourage a motion, and then if someone doesn't like the language in bullet point number 3, or the third bullet point on G, if you want to try to make an amended motion.
Before we
If you
go to
disagree
amendment
with
after
it.
amendment after amendment, I'm trying to just clarify through discussion. But if you want to cut that discussion off and just start making motions, we certainly can do that.
Doing chapter 4 in one motion, or?
We're just doing one chapter at a time.
Doing one chapter at a time.
Did you have anything?
No,
I had
Trustee Mehta, yes.
before you made your last.
I'm sorry.
Number one, there have been times with our, I would say not with Rebecca, but with our prior village manager, where there were certain pretty deep concerns that I think some trustees had. To say that we were not allowed to speak about them is either verbally or on social media is, I think, would have been entirely inappropriate. Secondly, actually I lost my second point, but I think that we should. The trustee Bachhorst referenced all the complaints she gets about other village trustees, and although she loves to make innuendo, I think it's pretty clear who she's referring to. And to tell you the truth, I get a lot of comments about some trustees also. I think, to me, it's not just social media, it's also just in regular life, walking around town, talking to people. I mean, I think we are, as much as we are all stuck here, not that we chose each other, but we all are
Family.
We all are a board. When a member of the public comes to us and has, asked about a rumor or has some negative personal thing to say, I think a step that we could take as a board to avoid some of the very deep rancor and division that we have developed on this board would be to say, I'm not going to get into that right now, and there are ways, and then, we do have, during elections, we're all going to have different views about which candidates we support. But, we can do that in a way without making artistic collages that put people down. We can do it in a way that's not quite so insulting to people. So I just think those are things that we could take steps to try to, not just on social media, but on a personal level, to not create some of these divisions. But I'd like to rephrase the bullet 3. So I would like to say, do not reference or cite.
You making a motion?
No, I'm just proposing some change in wording. Do not reference or cite village non-management employees without their express consent unless sharing content directly from an official village page slash website, or listing a direct contact for more information. Comments regarding management employees should be limited to their position and official responsibilities.
And if you wanted to say, and since we're just discussion, if you wanted to take
And
that one step
I'll
further,
move
say.
adoption of chapter 4.
Okay, so you make a motion.
Communication policy, chapter 4, is that correct? Yeah, social
That's-
Is that a change or is that already in there?
With the change that I
Okay,
just cited,
okay, just
I am
checking.
moving adoption of chapter 4.
Okay, and Trustee McKay seconds. Further discussion, any board members, and then I'll take resident comments. Trustee Bachhorst.
Well, I'd like to amend the motion to strike the red line changes here and go back to the original one, which would be do not reference or cite village employees without their express consent unless sharing directly from the page.
So you're just striking her thing. Can I just ask Attorney Garrett for clarification? Can you do that in your amendment?
I'm confused. Are you referring to the red lines? that-
Yeah,
Not the.
I didn't understand what she was saying.
I mean, read what the motion is, and then we'll see what you want to take out or add to the motion that was made.
Just to that chapter 4. And then under the goals plan under G. To reference or, not reference or cite village non-management employees without their consent unless sharing from a village website page. I don't have all of the exact verbiage.
So strike that.
And then management employees should be limited to sharing of just their responsibility.
Comments regarding management
Comments.
employees should be limited to their position and official responsibilities.
So striking and adding. Do you need a read?
No, I just think that we shouldn't talk about the staff.
So then Attorney Garrett, then she would just vote, you can't strike the amendment, you vote no on the amendment.
Well, but I just want to make
It's
sure.
not an
that-
amendment, it's a motion.
I mean, a motion, I'm sorry, in your amendment, you can't just strike the motion.
Yes, right, but I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Are you talking about other,
Do not reference, how about this? I move to amend the motion. She's making the changes.
Just say what your motion would be.
Well, my motion would be that we don't reference or cite village employees without their express consent.
So you'd strike.
Period.
Okay, so you'd strike.
Well, then I would, I'm sorry, unless sharing content directly from an official page, I still wouldn't comment on that at that point, I would just share it, but, because that's where we get lost, is when we start interpreting, and I have seen plenty of us, have been to similar meetings and have different interpretations of the outcome of said meetings or discussions with community members on this board, et cetera. I just want to avoid any ambiguity or any kind of editorializing after the fact from us as elected officials, again, showing what we would expect from others instead of,
We're allowed to.
and again, I'm just there for what we're allowed to do, but we talk about what we should do. And yes, because we're allowed to do a lot of different things, doesn't necessarily mean we should. And this is where I'm saying, if we want to, come together as a board and show, the community what the behaviors that we expect of others, then we've got to model it. And the best way to do that is to not talk about other people online, especially our employees and staff in the village. So, and I think there are ample opportunities for this community, again, if we could share posts or whatnot, to understand that we appreciate. And there are numerous ways, we all know it, we're rhetoricians, a lot of us, including us. So if we can figure out really crafty ways to throw compliments at people without even mentioning them.
Okay, but what about titles? So I need to be clear here, because we've had this discussion now 3 times.
No titles, just staff. They could be the police department. Okay, no one cares, you know what I mean? Like, or the Department of Public Works who did a great job. Okay, fine, I'm fine with that. But if we have to say the police chief or the director of Public Works, then we shouldn't say it at all.
Have a conversation with a member of Public Works. That would work.
Again, it's not our job.
That would-
I'm still not procedurally,
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, do you have any idea what the?
No, I don't.
If I may, what she's trying to do with the amendment is go to the original language.
Correct.
Well,
She wants to get rid of the track changes, go with the original language that I had on the
So
consent
no
agenda.
red. So how would you amend the motion to do that?
Right, I guess that's my question.
Because the motion is different.
Oh, okay, so
So you would
it's on
strike
page
certain,
16, is it 16?
so you would strike language in the motion and add some new language back, correct?
Okay, I could strike the third bullet point in the motion and then add my thing, which is everything but the red line.
I think that works.
As long as it's not the exact opposite, as long as you're not striking the exact language that was, the additional language that was proposed, which would just be a no vote on language.
Right, that's
So
what
I
I
think
just
it's
said.
different enough, right? It sounds like.
As long as she's adding something,
Right,
correct,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
different?
fine.
I can add something else if you want me to go to work.
No, I think you did.
Okay.
So can you read your motion, your amended motion, or the amendment? or-
It's just what is in there with no red or
Okay, clerk,
negative.
then please read the amended motion.
So this is what I would have without the red.
Amended.
Does not reference or cite village employees without their express consent unless sharing content directly to the official village page, website, or listing a department head customer service as a direct contact for more information on a particular village service or issue.
But, Attorney Barron,
That's the amendment. Can we just, let's just, is there a second? Let's just
There's
go.
not a second.
Come on. I mean, we have 45 minutes. You have to-
excuse me, you're the one that wanted to discuss this, I want to make sure, my responsibility is that it procedurally is done correctly, so, I don't, so my understanding is you need to strike certain language and add, you can't make a new statement.
Well, I mean, as long as we move to, well, first of all, is there a second? I guess that's a good point. There's no
Well, we didn't know what
second.
we didn't know what the proposed amendment was until,
Okay,
to
right.
get a
Well,
second,
right,
so.
exactly, right. If there's no second, it's a moot point, but.
Okay.
Is there?
Can I make a suggestion?
No, not while there's a motion on the floor. We have to wait now that we know what the motion is for a second or not, and then I will call on you during, right after.
Oh, if there's no second, then.
That fails.
it's a moot point.
Okay, it
So
fails.
now you're back to the original.
Okay, and now we can further discuss. Can I, if you're gonna make another motion before we put it on the table, I think there was a resident that wanted to say something.
Well, I was just gonna clarify Robert's rules.
Okay, would you just give your name and your address?
The microphone.
And Stanton, come speak at the
I
microphone.
actually wasn't gonna speak to what I was coming here to speak about, but I've
That's
been in
okay.
many meetings
Name?
where there are Robert's
Thank you.
rules.
Name and address, please.
Paul Florsheim, 4105 North Carolina. So I don't believe you made a motion. Did you make a motion?
She did.
She did.
And it was seconded, yes.
So usually when you make the motion, then you can have a friendly amendment to the motion.
Oh, this wouldn't be friendly.
No, this
Okay,
isn't
and then
fair.
she cannot accept it.
Well, you
But if she
will
makes a
have to-
motion, you do have to vote on the motion.
And we
You can amend it.
We
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
You can amend the motion before we vote.
They're familiar
You-
with that practice.
Yes.
Just given the
We do it all the
circumstances, it was not a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Did anybody second my motion?
Yes.
Yes, there
Trustee
was.
McKay.
But thank you.
But thank you, yes, we had a long time running that one. Was there anybody else? Okay. Trustee
I just
Bach.
want to call the question.
Okay. We will call the question, go to a direct vote. Can you read the?
I need to put on the line question.
Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of calling the question say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, so someone please read the proposed amended language.
There's no one.
Well, it's to approve chapter 4,
Wait a minute.
and then on the third bullet point in G is,
You want me to do it?
Yep.
And I think I know what you did. Do not reference or cite village non-management employees without their express consent unless sharing content directly from an official village page, website, or a direct contact for more information on a particular village service or issue. Comments for management employees should relate to their position and official responsibilities.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
You skipped a sentence in here, was it intentionally?
That was part of her motion. She got rid of a phrase there, where it says a listing of department head customer service.
Is that okay?
Well, if we call the question, we can't really say.
I just want to make sure we're voting on the right thing. Okay. All right, so we'll go with Tyler's, words. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is that for the amendment?
Just an optional thing.
I mean-
The motion failed.
This is the
Amendment failed.
original
Okay.
motion.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-1. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next.
Policy chapter 5 then is on communications in public buildings. So once again, we made some comments or some changes based on last meeting that you can see in red. Since this was pulled from the consent agenda last, we did receive an inquiry from a resident.
We don't need to go into any specific details on the inquiry, just, I think you're just asking for
Yep,
clarification.
and all I was gonna say, which added some language in section B1. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not being partial, or that we're talking about policy and staff is asking us to see if they have the intent of what our language was. Is that correct? Clarification.
The inquiry made us
Clarification of the
want to be more clear,
Okay,
so that's what the language
I
is.
think that's what Rebecca had shared.
Can you tell me exactly what language relates to the inquiry?
Which paragraph's in question here?
B1.
We need clarity.
B1.
B1? Sorry, I have to flip.
Can you tell me
It was
exactly which
about,
language?
yeah, it was,
Read it.
well, in that, I have to get it, or I would have to bring up the inquiry,
No,
which.
Yeah, I'd like to hear
made
the
a change
inquiry.
in B1
Which part
related to
of
the
The,
inquiry.
the sentence that starts with physical displays. Or, because there's a there's an item in there that addresses the inquiry. So the part that says physical displays, tables, information and collection boxes, easels, surveys, verbal solicitation, etc. from the public or outside organizations are prohibited in village facilities. The one exception for the physical sign in the lot, or that's based on our conversation, so it'd stop there.
But I have a question for you. So at the last meeting, when you followed up by rewriting the ordinance, we had said that. I think it's perfectly clear. I don't know what steps that means. What is not clear about that? That you needed to bring it back before us? Just tell me what part of that was not clear.
I added that since our last time.
Say that again? Because,
What I just read, I added.
oh, I know,
Since our
based
last
on
meeting.
what we directed you to do. Not the stuff in red, I'm talking about
Oh,
B1.
when we pulled it from the consent agenda, trustee Aventa just had one or two clarification items. Like, or one of the things she expressed was that if there was an event that day, they should be allowed a physical sign in the lobby.
So we're only talking about the stuff in red?
Correct. Those,
Okay,
right.
all right, we're not
That is
talking about, but you're clear on the other part of otherwise not allowed. All the language that was there before. You don't need any more clarity, just the red.
I do not, no,
Wait,
just the red, correct.
Trustee Menta, and then trustee
Okay,
Byers.
I don't think we can say verbal solicitation is not allowed in a village facility. That's, people are allowed to, that's a freedom of speech. And we've already been through this about when this board discussed the door-to-door vending.
Meaning not setting up a table or booth or but
That's
just
just
walking around
physical
talking.
place, tables, collection boxes, easels, surveys, verbal solicitation. So you're saying no one can verbally solicit in the lobby of
Oh, I
Village
see what you're
Hall or Village Center. We can't, that's against the First Amendment.
Is it Attorney Barron?
What's the question?
Say it again, trustee Menta, the whole.
I don't believe under the First Amendment that we can prohibit verbal solicitation in public lobbies such as Village Center or Village Hall. People are allowed to be verbal, whether
They're not
soliciting or
Yeah,
not
I mean, as long as
soliciting.
it's
People are allowed
not
to.
disruptive.
Yeah, so that has
We
to
might
be
have to strike
struck.
that part then. I'm fine
You
with
can't
that.
set up a table and hand out,
But that's not even in relation to a table, it's just in verbal solicitation.
Do you want to revert that? What was the intent, Tyler?
I mean, it's exactly, I think, how it was, if someone, for instance, came wanting to, I don't know, sell a car or their house, and as people are walking in the village center, they address them, mentioning that they wanted to,
Or like, can I have some
looking to
money,
solicit, something like that.
food?
So,
Yeah, I don't know that we can do that though. Because they're allowed to be on.
which, yeah, as you as a board, if you wanna, eliminate that language,
I would suggest we do, but, that's my suggestion.
While
Just
we're
about
thinking about that, I guess you guys have talked about this inquiry, but I'm not familiar with it, so.
I don't think we need to know because staff is just coming for clarification on the red language.
And this red language is as a result of some inquiry, right, that we're not talking about.
There's a reason, because we're talking about a policy, and staff has come directly, Rebecca, and saying,
So some of us know about this inquiry and others are being kept in the dark.
I don't know anything about the inquiry, I'm just saying that it's agendized that we're talking about policy and staff is asking for clarification. So they can make and administer, which is
I
their
understand
job,
all of that.
to say yes or no. It's not asking us to approve a change or an exception, it's asking us to clarify language. I just want to stick to the agenda.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
would you mind?
Rebecca, yes.
Okay,
it might come up during public comments too.
right, so trustee Bachers, if you wanna,
That's fine, I'll wait for public comment.
okay, well, page 74 of the packet is what is explained
That's what
down
you're-
at
okay.
the top of the second page, first paragraph, is something that you can take a look at as a point of reference. When we discussed the policy the last time, we took a lot of great care in detail to talk about different types of postings and, postings on our messaging boards and as well as easels of some sort, within the physical lot.
I understand what we're not talking about.
Okay.
It's,
But we took a lot of great care talking about posting of items.
Policy.
With regards to that policy. And at that point, we did hear very clearly the points of the village board relative to posting and items located within the space.
Some of them.
freestanding, we also talked about, is what you're saying. Because we did.
So, we're here with that to clarify, to make sure that we're clear, because we want it to be clear. And we also want this to be a document that's easy for people to administer, at a future point in time when they need to pick it up for reference, because we can't remember it all.
And the only reason I didn't want to bring up any type of application today is because we're not here to talk about an application. And we're here to make a policy. There's gonna be times, and we pass it down and the administrator makes that judgment call. And that's what an administrator does, unless we want to make this into a special permit, it's privilege, and then it comes to the board. But our role in this situation is to make the policy, and so we could give a lot of examples, because there will be a lot of requests, I'm sure, coming down the pipe. And so I really wanted to focus on policy, because that's our job tonight. So, so can you read the language that you're proposing that we, for clarification reasons, that we add? Is it just the?
I'll read it one more time. Assuming that the board wants to take out verbal solicitation, I have physical displays, tables, information collection boxes, easels, surveys, etc. from the public or outside organizations are prohibited in village facilities.
From anyone, I think we decided last time. The question though, we said the word freestanding last time. I don't know if that makes any difference. Like, compared to things on the wall, and then we were talking about things freestanding. You just explained it in a different language, but that's fine. Trustee McKay?
I just want to make sure I was reading the right thing. No, I would like to make a motion to adopt this as presented, leaving verbal solicitation in.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Leaving in.
Leaving it in? I think it's gonna flow. Okay, anybody want a second? If no second, then that
I'll
motion.
second
Okay,
Well, I guess, well,
now that it's on the floor for debate, we can, unless you want to both withdraw.
did we get a legal opinion on?
Well, here's the thing, I mean, you've got, there's a whole
Good question.
developing area of case law that relates to, there's especially been a lot of cases related to ordinances related to street, like begging on the street and things like that. But there's some distinctions between types of speech, commercial speech versus non-commercial speech versus all this other. It's a developing area of the law. it's probably gonna come down to what exactly the individual's doing. If you camp out there every day and you're harassing people coming in and out, hey, you wanna buy this, you wanna buy that? And you're essentially disrupting the flow of business or whatever it might be. That's probably okay, but if somebody is having a conversation in the
About
foyer
taking down
that says,
trees.
hey, I happen to be selling my, used whatever, are you interested? I mean, obviously, that's a different situation. So, there's not necessarily bright line rules on all this stuff. It depends whether your regulation is going to be subject to strict scrutiny under constitutional analysis or not. That language, that sort of generic language, as long as we don't, as long as we're not enforcing it in an unconstitutional manner or unconstitutional way, it probably be,
Can I ask a question though? It wasn't the intent of that paragraph about physical things in space. It wasn't necessarily, when we had this whole conversation on policy level, it was space being occupied. It wasn't about talking about topics. And so, it was about physical things being passed out.
That was my original intent.
Yeah, and I thought the original board's intent as well. And so I don't know how it got in there, but it got in there somehow. And so I'm really
Does
not.
anybody recall how it got in there?
Well, that's where I'm struggling because,
The thing we shall not name.
I don't remember that at all.
it'll be more clear if we go to public comment and it comes up, but until then, I have to leave it how it is.
Wait,
But
But but you wrote it after our meeting, so it has nothing to do with public comment. I'm wondering how it got in, like the.
I put it in there.
You put it in there?
Yep.
Based on?
The inquiry that we received.
Okay, so therefore, we don't need to hear from the public right this moment, because again, it's not a direct, it didn't come from the board.
Oh, okay, but we have a motion on the floor.
And a second.
Okay, that's fine, I'm just saying. I understand, I'm challenging our staff for a second, because the intent was to reflect what the board had said in the policy, and then there was an inquiry and something was added. And so I just want to make sure that that was what happened. It didn't come from the board, it came from staff.
Yeah, we received an inquiry. I was trying to be a little bit more specific with that language, so, because you're right.
Just
Like
got it.
anything verbally, we don't have anything in that language, so if we get a verbal, if we get a request from someone wanting to do some, a project that could be done verbally.
Like just no
There's
setup.
nothing in this policy that gives direction on how we should
So
proceed.
you're asking us to do that, okay.
So that's what I was trying to do with the language.
Okay.
But,
Right.
like I said, that's up to you as a board. If you don't want this policy to address it, it doesn't have to. It's up to you as a
But,
board.
okay, then you can talk about the inquiry, as long as is it a verbal request and with no physical placement?
It could be,
Okay.
but I think this specific one isn't, but something very similar could be.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor, and a second. Any further debate by the trustees? Seeing none, anybody in the public have a question? Yes, Mr. Smith? Mr.
So I
Bush?
believe I'm the inquiry. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
All right, Paul Florsheim, 4105 North Farwell. I'm a professor at UWM in the Silver School of Public Health. I do I'm a clinical psychologist, public health professor, community intervention research. I do sort of this blend of psychology, mental health, and public health. I work in communities. I teach community intervention research. I believe this is a community in which I can do my research. And so I am doing a study in which I would like to have students place a physical table in the lobby or in the library. We've done this in several other libraries around town, city and suburb. And recruit participants, not in an aggressive way, but allow participants to come to the table if they're interested in seeing who this UWM student with a tablecloth in the lobby, and participate if they choose, with consent, approved by the Institutional Review Board, and receive compensation if they choose to receive compensation. And so that's the request. It's not to solicit for the sale of something, it's to solicit participation in research.
With a physical table.
With a physical
And we-
table, yes, so the students
It's
can
important
sit.
because we discussed
Yeah.
it last time.
With a physical table, that's how we do it, and that's how we always do it. It's just, it's the way we engage with the community to get them to come to us. And that's really it. I mean, the purpose of the research is to request information from, we have a survey that is intended to solicit sort of beliefs and attitudes regarding access to mental health services for parents with children under the age of 11. Doesn't assume that any parent has a child with mental health services. It's done with a vignette, and their parents are asked, what would you do, if your child was a parent?
Can I ask you, do you have other opportunities where you do this? Like I know last time when we had this discussion on the floor, we mentioned, just let me finish one second, we mentioned that, the school district, we were talking about school district, we were talking big, we were talking about everything. It got really difficult because brownies want to come, so, so there's a lot of good cause out there, but my question is there other opportunities like in the school district where there are children that go in and out? We had mentioned that in our discussion.
School districts are much more complicated actually because it is not really public space in the same way that a library is public space. And so we don't, we could go to the school districts, but it's different, and parents don't go wandering in and out in quite the same way. However, we do have other opportunities. I have to say that I've approached many other libraries in the city and in the suburbs, and I grew up in Shorewood. I returned to Shorewood as an adult when I came back to help start the School of Public Health, and I would personally be rather dismayed if Shorewood became the only community in which I was not allowed to do community-engaged research. That would be
But again,
shocking to me.
And let me make a clarification. Are you asking for the atrium area or for the library space?
Either.
Okay,
I'm fine with either.
but they're administered differently, and that's why I'm asking. This policy refers only to the atrium, right? Am I correct? The library has their own policy for library use?
Correct.
So that was going to be my suggestion to the board members. My suggestion would be that we keep the language as it is, and I think it's a great cause, and we're going to have a lot of great causes, and if the library...
How many great causes do we have? I'm serious,
again,
like how many
I've
requests
only
do you
been on
have?
board for 4 years, and I don't know because I don't run the library. So my point though, sir, is that the library also hosts discussions on race, and I know those are gathering place, but they co-sponsor, they co-sponsor it. So if that was a co-sponsor with the village or the library, it would be a no-brainer according to policy we have written. If it's just different organizations and groups, we had a long discussion about that last time, and it's overwhelming. So we're very actively engaged in our meetings, so we are a little different. Yes.
Point of clarification, I understand that you're the chair of this board, but every time someone speaks, you also sometimes speak and clarify.
And you have the right to do that too.
Well, actually I don't, because you have to recognize me, but you don't have to recognize
I always
yourself.
recognize you.
So what I'm saying is, as point of or order or whatever the heck it is, I'd like it if we all were consistent with
Okay.
our
I'd like
ability
to
to
call
do
the
that.
question.
You are a chair. but-
There, I'd like to call the question. All right. Question has been called.
I'd like to speak, please.
All those in favor of calling the question, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion to call the question has failed, 2-4. Now, Joanne.
Hi, everybody. Joanne Lupozovic, 2504 East Newton Avenue. Paul, I want to speak both on behalf of Paul in support of what he's advocating for, and as a former school board member, I'd like to speak on behalf of another intergovernmental body who should be recognized as a carve-out for this kind of thing. We had a problem during the referendum. We couldn't get materials in the atrium. We couldn't get materials in the library. We couldn't get the materials anywhere to inform our community. It's absurd. That needs to be taken care of for going forward. We shouldn't be trying to deny information to people. We should be bending over backwards to
totally
get
agree.
information to people. You can say you agree, but you actually worked in opposition to it, as did several other members of this body. shameful behavior. And Dr. Florsheim does incredibly significant work, and we should be bending over backwards to work with our partner to this community, a partner to our school districts. Shame on all of you for not trying to make that done.
Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
I'd love to,
That's fine.
oh, do you mind if I look through your photos? Jeff Davidian, 4101 North Prospect. I can see letting all groups have a table one day a month or a year, but to have to be swayed by how important a particular group is, ask you to use your unfettered discretion to provide government service to somebody while excluding it, by not giving it to somebody else. That's a pretty fundamental public forum issue. If you let everybody do it, there's not a problem. If you select based on what your values are, there's a constitutional issue, I think.
Well, and Rebecca, help me out. We do that on special privileges. Each and every application comes to the board. What the policy was trying to get at was that we would set a policy direction and the administrators would be able to do that. We certainly have that opportunity, I'm telling the board, to do a process similar to a special privilege where every application comes to the board. And that is, I think, what both both speakers were kind of saying, shame on you for not supporting this. And I think what you were saying was, and correct me if I'm wrong, just if you're going to offer one, you have to offer all. And so I would like to make a policy and let them administer the policy, but we certainly can take it in a different direction. Trustee Bachhorst.
Yeah, I would also like to reiterate the sentiments of what was said by some of the people here tonight, which, correct me if I was wrong, but yes, I also agree that we should be, we're a public institution. We should want to have more information versus less. And to deny our school district, as an example, okay, there can be many others, but the ability to post, I know a lot of this, let's just bring the elephant in the room out. A lot of this language and a lot of this stuff came after last year's referendum, and the fact that there were members of this board who worked actively against the referendum, including the dissemination of just basic information.
Now we're getting personal.
All right, fine.
Stick to policy.
Policy this is bunk. We should not be restricting the public's ability to congregate and do the other things, sure. And also, I want to say, there hasn't been a problem. Even I wouldn't consider the fact that the school district wanted to have some information regarding the referendum to be a problem, but that is the problem that we are, I'm pretty sure, talking about, because we haven't gotten any other examples of the libraries, like the run on the library for posting all this information, and then how, we've had, it hasn't been a problem. So I would move to strike all this crap and allow the school district and our public health and other entities to do the work they need to do.
I'd like to stick to facts and not opinions, so if you want to call the library up and ask if they've said no to anybody else, that would be fair. But to say that that's never happened before, let's just try to stay with the policy discussion. Trustee Manta.
I'd just like to say, we have so much discussion about the school district. This is not the school district, this is the village board. We have a different set of priorities, we have a different set of responsibilities. The referendum passed, it's done, let's move on. I mean, why are we continually discussing the referendum, okay? It's done, it's over, we don't have to keep talking about it. Okay, let's go. I call the question. I don't even know what the motion is, but we really need to move on.